Welcome, welcome, welcome. We're going to get started in just a second. All right. Welcome back. Welcome back, ladies, to the 𝙌𝙀𝙀𝙉𝙎 Roundtable Leadership Symposium. I am your host, Jacqueline Kaba-Harrison, and I am back with another exclusive interview with Miss Tavara. I'm going to let her introduce herself in just a moment. Just kind of want to fill you in case you haven't been with us throughout the day. But this leadership symposium is specifically to provide quality personal, professional, and leadership development for African American women in business to help you truly scale your business in the way that you want to be able to create your ideal business, right? The Leadership Symposium takes place in January, May, and September. So if you did not take a seat at the table this time around, contact me. Let's talk. Maybe you can participate in September or possibly January of 2023. Just let me know. Also, I am the executive channel producer on the Women Win Network of the Eight Queens Roundtable channel. And the Eight Queens Roundtable channel is dedicated to all things women empowerment. So it's dedicated to the physical, mental, and spiritual health of African American women. So if you have a show or a podcast and you want to boss up your visibility, you want to maximize your visibility, you want to expand your brand, we are actually streaming on Roku as well as Amazon Fire TV, reaching 100 million homes. So if you're ready to do this, let's have a conversation. All right. So again, I hope you took this time to go ahead and grab a pen and a pad because we're going to be dropping some nuggets on you. All right. That you're going to be able to take tangible tools to add to your tool belt to be able to utilize and begin increasing or further developing your leadership skills. So without further ado, and I don't know if I'm said your name right. Is it pronounced Tavara?
Yes, you have it right, Jackie. A lot of people like to get tricked up on that, but it's okay. I try to be one to pronounce everyone's names correctly because growing up, everybody had a hard time. But yes, I am Tavara Franklin. I'm a licensed professional counselor in the state of Georgia, and I am the owner of Healing Grounds Therapy and Wellness Center, where we are cultivating hope and healing back into the lives of others. I have a specialty with young girls and adolescent girls and women from the ages of 13 into adulthood. And I have an expertise with cognitive behavior therapy as well as reality therapy and solution-focused therapy. There I am actually helping others really uncover their authentic self and get them to a space where they are cultivating themselves in a space where they're overcoming their challenges with depression and anxiety, which is the population I mostly serve. So during this time, I'm mostly engaging with a lot of women. I'm engaging a lot of young girls. I'm doing individual as well as family therapy, group therapy, and I do dabble into couples therapy. So don't feel as though that you're exempt from that. And again, I'm most of the time I'm a firm believer that in mental health, one of the most fundamental things that you have to understand and come to grips and being on a continuum of healing, because I don't believe that healing is a one defined space. You know, a lot of people like to say, oh, I'm healed. And I'm like, well, you could possibly be, but you know, the thing about healing and being healed is when we're away from a space, or we're away from a certain incident or any kind of experience. And we're no longer experiencing those symptoms or those um, physical reactions that we normally receive from that experience. We're thinking that we're obsolete from those things, but that's because we're no longer with them. And so I'm a firm believer, because life likes to life, and it likes to throw little daggers at us. I'm a firm believer that healing is always on a continuum. So you're always healing until you take your last breath. And with that, I teach my clients how to be hot. That's an acronym we use, meaning they have to be honest, open, and transparent throughout their entire process, because during that process, you're able to really understand your authentic self. You're able to be a lot more bolder, and you're able to grasp and cultivate yourself unapologetically by honing in your truth and honing in your own authentic person that you know you can be. So that is me and my practice in a nutshell.
I love it. I love it. So tell us again that HOT stands for what again?
Honesty, honesty,
Honest,
openness, and
open,
transparency.
honesty,
Because
open,
I,
transparency.
I I really believe those are fundamentals that you really have to have in therapy. A lot of people like to show up with these big representatives in therapy or in their own lives. And because of these representations, they really hinder ourselves to come into this person that we are actually ordained to be. Not only that, you know, when you are being a lot more honest, open, and transparent with yourself, you find yourself being a lot more bolder. You're taking on these positive emotional risks. You're doing things and saying things you never thought you'd be doing and saying before, because most of the time we like to hold back because we don't want to hurt feelings. And most importantly, you know, when you're doing that, you can really become more unapologetic for who you are and your own truths, because we do tend to apologize. I don't know about you, Jackie, but I know I used to be a person where I just apologize for everything or anything. It's just be the silliest things. And then most of the times it'd be things that really are not lining up with my value system or who I am. But when we're continuing on a path just like that, it creates this mantra in our mind that I don't matter, my truth doesn't matter. So I should just minimize myself. I should just, you know, not say anything. And then because of that, it creates this whole world of anxiety and possible depression. So that's why when I'm speaking with my clients, I educate them on that basis, because honestly, that is your fundamental in being on a continuum of healing.
Right. You know, it's so interesting to hear you say that, because oftentimes people do bring their representative. Because I know sometimes I'm sitting there and I'm listening to people talk, and I'm thinking like, well, if everything is so great, everything is going so, why are you here?
Mhm, mhm,
And this, I mean, I guess this is a whole nother subject, but I, would love to talk later about like, how do you deal with that? How do you, bring that person out of that? How do you basically make their representative go home, basically, and them to show up? What I mean? Because
Yeah,
so yeah, but I think that's a good topic for another time. And she kind of got me interested in that now.
absolutely. I like
So
to bring it high all the time.
yeah, and how long has your practice been in existence?
Oh, let's see. My practice was born during the pandemic. So I've been practicing for 10 years.
Okay.
And I just decided to take a leap of faith and just say, you know what, I'm just going to go ahead and start this thing. And it was rough because I was not only doing my practice, but I was working a full-time job. And not to mention, I'm a wife and a mama too. And so it was really, difficult at first. But, through the grace of God, I was able to really come through and, you know, eventually decide to leave my full-time job and vessel into private practice.
That is awesome.
Thank
Oh my
you.
God, that's awesome. Okay. Well, let me say this. I am so excited to have you here. And, thank you for taking a seat at the table.
No, my pleasure, and it's such an honor to really be here, Jackie. I'm just excited to be here. I love your platform. I just think that everything that you bring is a full, refreshing representation of what a lot of women such as myself should be engaging in. And so I just thank you for this opportunity.
Oh, you're welcome. Most welcome. So, leadership. We're going to talk about leadership.
Mm.
So, let me ask you, what would you, or when would you say you began to see yourself as a leader? And was it something that you kind of saw in yourself, or maybe was it other people that saw it in you first? Tell us a little bit about that journey.
Wow, that's such a great question, because the first thing that honestly that comes to my mind when I think about when I felt like I was a leader or when did I come into a role was when I decided to go to college. And because of that, I am actually the first um, granddaughter and first daughter to actually go to college in my family. No one in my family, reached beyond high school. And, to have something instilled in me at such a young age to just keep going. I wanted to just break some of those barriers. Now, at the time, I will say that I didn't know that I was breaking barriers. I just thought I was just doing, what I thought was best. I felt like that going and getting a higher education would bring on a lot more opportunities than what was presented to me growing up. I'm from a small town called Durham, North Carolina, and I moved here to Georgia back in 2005, just because my mom, she wanted us to broaden our taste in life. And so the idea of going to college was just like, well, this would definitely give me an opportunity to broaden my taste. But more importantly, I felt like it was a move where, I needed to grow myself individually. So to think about leadership in that way and to realize that, I'm actually doing things that, no one in my family has done, I felt like was truly remarkable. And I felt like that, it's definitely a a blueprint or a step in what I would define as leadership. Is just doing the things that other people wouldn't have done, or they were scared to do, or felt like they wouldn't have the means to do.
Okay. Okay. I understand. That makes total sense.
Yeah.
So, leadership. Okay. So the next question is, what examples would you say, or mentors that you had? I know you said you were the first really to go, go to college and so forth. So did you see, like, maybe your mom or aunts or your grandmother, were they in any sort of leadership positions, whether it be, in the workforce, or possibly in the community, in the church, or anything like that?
I would say the most influential person that was in my life, or is in my life, is my mom. She is a person I call her a rebel, and I guess she would call me her mini rebel in a sense, because she, even though she took on a lot of different roles that were very unorthodox in my opinion. She went against the grain. She even at later on in life started a business that a lot of people didn't think was going to thrive, and now it's just flourishing. She she, honestly faced a lot of adversities, and in my opinion, for what I seen, she overcame them and was very resilient. And because of that, I really look up to her in that way, because I desire to be a person to go against the grain. And even though there was a lot of people that told her no, or there was a lot of obstacles in the way that may have made her appear as though that she couldn't do it, she didn't listen. She didn't listen to those things. She didn't bend. um and so that's what I would say is the one of the most influential persons in my life that really put the stamp on saying, like, hey, you can be a person in leadership, you can do these roles, and you can still have a life, even though you have these other people who are dependent upon you. It's maybe challenging, but it's not impossible.
What's the business that your mom has?
So her business is a greater, let me get it right. Greater House Solutions. And so she is, and she also just launched a trucking business. Um, so what she does with her real estate business, that's what the first one, Great House Solutions. She pretty much, and don't quote me, because I feel like her what she does is really difficult. It's complicated, but she handles with a lot of contracts as far as flipping contracts and homes. In addition to that, she again just launched her trucking business. I want to say about 3 months ago. And so now that's flourishing. And so it's just amazing just to see her progress, and how much of an inspiration it is to see where she came from to where she is now. And just doing it with so much faith. Because I would have to say, even in my times, when she would tell me some of her plans, I'm like, oh, I don't know, mom. But that's the type of person that I really really do aspire and look up to, because of that amount of faith that she has in what she does. And I think that really does make one great of a leader, is that you have to have faith in what it is that you do. People can't follow you if you're not confident in what it is that you're bringing to the table. So how can you expect them to be confident in following you? It's quite difficult. But she did it, and she's doing it, and then I'm just so blessed to be a part of her journey. Been grateful to hear about her stories, and I'm just so proud of her.
Wow. So this trucking company, so what made her decide to do that?
I think only Lord knows.
I don't know.
She just has all of these ideas, and I feel like I'm literally, the apple does not fall from the tree. I have, so many ideas that come to my mind, and she's the same. And so it's just like, oh, we see an opportunity. Let's take it. We're risk takers in a sense. I didn't think I was, but just looking back and seeing what she does and seeing what I do, and I'm like, wow, that's taking a lot. That takes a lot of risks to do what you do. And then she's a woman in the industry, so I understand that, trucking is mostly, can be male dominant, but she's doing it. And I'm just like, I love it. I'm here for it.
Wow, your mom sounds really wow.
She's
Okay.
amazing. She's amazing.
Amazing.
When I think about leadership, she is one of the people that comes to my mind.
Okay.
And so I just whomever I come into contact, not only is she one of my biggest influence, but I would definitely have to say that My husband, he's one of my greatest influences as well. He inspires me daily. He doesn't even know it. He likes to I feel like he likes to think that, sometimes he doesn't have an impact on me, but he really does. Just because of hearing, the things that he's gone through, and then just being able to see him witness me going through the things that I've gone through, and him pushing me. And I just honestly can't imagine, how things would be if he wasn't such of a great influence in my life and doing the things that he does. And I would say that I have quite a few influences. I definitely, in this business, because again, my private practice is an outpatient mental health service that I cater to, and so I have mentors such as Glendora Divine, who really held my hand in being more visible and giving me the ropes and things that I didn't know. Has Stephanie Hughes, who was like really the crutch and pushing me to being where I am today. And Frederica Roper, I was in a position doing school-based health centers. I don't know if you're familiar with school-based health centers, but school-based health centers are pretty much many doctors' offices inside of schools, and they have mental health services attached to them as well. And so I had the pleasure of being a part of a school-based health center that was the first in all the states of Georgia at a high school to service adolescents at a high school, engaging in mental health services. And so I was able to facilitate a lot of initiatives and a lot of outreach initiatives and programs, and be able to pretty much get those programs developed into a space where they are today. And one of those people who really helped me to, be more confident as a therapist was Miss Roper, Frederica Roper. So I have quite a few of a crew of influences that I would say that shaped this person that stands before you today. I'm just so grateful to have them.
Wow. Yeah, you really do. Because it comes up as some of the women that, they have their own business, and maybe sometimes they're still in corporate and they have their own business, or maybe they've transitioned. A lot of times they talk about in corporate being, sitting at the what do you call it, the conference table, and looking around that table and not seeing anybody that looks like them. So that, that's why I'm always curious to know, like, what are your influences? And, like, I know one of the other young ladies, and you know Wana, she stated that her dad told her from the beginning, listen, you are a leader, you're gonna do great things. It's just like, was drilling that into her as a young child, and it's like I think about, I mean, everybody has a different leadership journey.
Right.
And actually, even before I go into that, sometimes people don't even really see themselves as a leader, but they're like the go-to person in their family or in their church, or, at their jobs. They're like the go-to person. People look to them for guidance and leadership. And they like, they just, they do it, but they just don't necessarily consider themselves a leader. So it's always interesting hearing about people's journey. You said what?
Yes, I was one of them. Yeah, I was one of them because, growing up, I grew up in a single parent household. And, my mom was the person that, took care of 4 kids, by herself. Well, with the help of my grandparents from time to time. But, she instilled things in me. But I felt like as much as she believed in me, a part of me didn't really believe in what she was saying. And so, that's where the value of authenticity came into play later on, because I felt myself living in a lot of shadows of a lot of people, because I didn't have that confidence, even though it was being poured into me, I wasn't receiving it. And so over time, I found myself, battling with a lot of anxiety, people pleasing, things of that nature. And so I would say, a light bulb just kind of went off in my head came college time, and was just like, no, like you're everything that your mom has been saying to you. You're everything that your other mom has been saying to me. I have two moms. Her name is Vivian Coates. So they poured in so much into me. And so when I graduated and got into, to the workforce, and seeing how people would gravitate towards me, and I started to become more confident and comfortable in the things that I brought to the table. And I was actually showing up as my authentic self, not just, in the shadows, or somebody else, or just trying to please them. I was just noticing like how much people really actually gravitated towards what I had to say. And so it just really, I want to say, just shined even more, as I, became more invested in the field of mental health. And I was under the wings of again, Frederica Roper and Stephanie Hughes and all of those other people that I mentioned. And then that's, again, it's just where, things were just really skyrocketed for me, because again, without, even though you can have, again, somebody that pours into you, but if you're not receiving that on that end, it's not going to come to fruition until you actually sit down and just and look at what every amazing thing that you've done, and everything that and how you do it and how well you do it. And that's what it took for me. And that's what I would say was how I came to realize, honestly, like, yeah, I'm actually a natural born leader.
That's amazing. And I like how you mentioned too that it can be poured into you, but you have to be ready to receive it too.
Yes. Yes, you do. I mean, because again, even in therapy, there's a lot of things as therapists we can sit there and teach everyone. I have a workshop that I talk about with trust. And I talk about a little bit in that how, a person who breaks your trust, they can do everything they possibly can to regain your trust, and you give them the blueprint. But if you're not receiving the things that they're dishing out to you that you asked for, then it's going to feel as though it's unproductive, or nothing is actually growing or developing. And so I felt the same way with leadership. It's just that even though my moms would pour into me, even the people, my other influences, they were just pouring to me and tell me all of these things, but it was almost as if I had this what is it called, imposter syndrome going on. And to a point where I was just like, okay, I literally had to sit back and like reflect on everything that I've accomplished, and reflect on the things that I do, because I honestly did feel, and one of the barriers for me in leadership, I felt like that was the biggest thing, was not only myself and my own way of thinking, but feeling as though that I was just so young, or too young for people, feeling as though that, people wouldn't hear me. And it took a lot of people to, kind of break that down, break that out of me, to believe like, hey, like, just your age doesn't really matter with this. You've come with a lot of experience, but more importantly, there's a testimony or a story to you that people gravitate towards, which is why, authenticity is such a big thing for me. And I advocate and talk so much about it in my practice, because I truly believe that is really a fundamental thing that you have to be comfortable in order to be on a continuum of healing.
So I'm just flowing with this based
Yeah.
on some of the things that you just mentioned. So for someone that's listening, tuning in, whether they're catching us live or catching the replay, what would you say for those that have that what do they call it, imposter syndrome? I mean, how did you finally dismantle all of that? Because there might be some people out there that might be in that exact place. People are telling me I'm a leader, telling me I'm destined for greatness and so on and so forth, but I don't feel it. It doesn't come from within. Well, what suggestions do you have?
I'm gonna say the old phrase, the old Bible phrase, old biblical phrase is count your blessings. Honestly, what we call it in therapy is doing like a gratitude list. When I actually went down in my mind and I looked at everything, at least the big things in my life that I did, and even some of the small things, I honestly sat back and I was just like, wow, these are really traits of what a leader, exemplifies. Is somebody that breaks barriers. It's somebody who doesn't give up. It's somebody who takes risks, big or small. It doesn't really matter. I feel like to take a risk to start a private practice, that's a huge risk. But even to have a thought of like going off to college and being the first one in your family, that can create a lot of different things in a family, especially if your unit isn't tight and you have other people who could potentially be a little jealous or, things of that nature. I feel like anything that when I went through that list, and you actually count your blessings, you do a gratitude list, and you're looking at the things that you have accomplished or you are accomplishing, or even some of the traits that you have, just being who you are, that I would say was the thing that helped made me break through from feeling like I was going through this imposter syndrome. Because it's you really, I feel like once you see it on paper, it becomes more alive. When you have things in your mind, I feel like they're all imaginative, but it takes that energy for it to come out and be placed physically in front of you to actually make you see it. And you look at it and it's like, wow, like I did that. I mean, and it's just like, well, who else would have done it? Like, no one else could have done this. Like, you're the person who actually went through the fires, who stuck through these challenges, who, got doors slammed in your face, who people who told you no, people, all types of adversities. You're the only person that had to walk through the journey and to actually see it on paper and see everything that you accomplished, or to see the type of traits that you have on paper. I feel like it's very remarkable and makes any person to be able to immediately sit down and think like, no, this is not imposter. This is real life. This is me. And this is who I am.
Yeah. Well, you know what? Let's do this. Let's break briefly for a quick commercial.
Okay.
And then we will be right back. And we're going to talk, when we come back, we're going to talk about, and you've already touched on some of them, but I want to see if you want to add any additional characteristics and traits of a good leader. And also talk about some of the different, and you kind of, and none of this overlaps, but I want to make sure, because I always ask, what are some of the challenges that you've experienced? And you kind of touched on a couple of them, but I'll ask you if there's anything else you'd like to share in reference to that. So just give us 1 second, everyone, and we will be right back. I can hear my son. He is really going to town there. Children.
How old is your son again, Jackie?
He's 11. Oh. And he should be in the bed right about now, but
oh yeah. My. Yeah. Right. What time do he normally go to bed?
Like now. He's taking advantage of the situation because I'm in here doing this, so.
He's milking it. He's really milking it. See, I was like, these kids got to go to bed. 8:45. Oh no, it's past y'all bedtime. Come on. Time to go.
Okay. That's excellent. Okay, so we'll be right back.
Okay.
Realizing Your Potential LLC presents Born to Lead, Awakening the Leader Within. This anthology brings together women that have overcome hardships in their lives and have managed not only to survive, but thrive. Their stories focus on resiliency, adaptability, and strength, acknowledging the innate strength and leadership qualities in African American women.
All right, all right, all right. We are back. We are back. Okay, so those couple of things that I mentioned just before we went on break, if there's any other characteristics of a good leader that you'd like to mention, please do so, as well as if there's any additional challenges that you may have overcome. You know, I know one of the big ones you mentioned was kind of basically getting in your own way, you know, but if
Yes.
there's any other challenges that maybe you've experienced in the workplace, you know, prior to branching out on your own, you know, share that with us and kind of how you navigated it.
I would say definitely one of the other challenges I've had was honestly I would have to say my anxiety was one of the biggest challenges. I definitely, allowed, my anxiety to lead me in a way, in a sense. And so I missed out on a lot of opportunities. And so when I was presented with the idea of going into private practice for the third time, I said I couldn't pass up on it. I could not pass up on this opportunity. And so I had to make a promise to myself. You know how sometimes, like, there's things that come up in your lifetime where it shows up multiple occasions, and it's just like, okay, it's just like a sign that, like, this is what you're supposed to be doing. And it's just like, what are you going to do with it? Are you going to pass it up this time? Because if you pass it up this time, it may not show up again. And so I literally just had to make a pact with myself. Sometimes I feel like, when we have certain opportunities that comes up, it's divine order. And I just feel as though that those are moments where you really have to look at yourself and find out, okay, look at yourself and define, like, okay, how are you really in the way? And when I say that was like the biggest challenge for me being in my way, literally me being in my way, me feeling as though that I wasn't good enough, me feeling as though I wasn't ready. I honestly do feel as though that, there were people in my lifetime that, might have passed up on me because, I didn't have that confidence, that did live in the shadows of other people, and it didn't seem as though that I was being my genuine, authentic self. And so they couldn't follow me. They like, she's this, and this, and it's okay. It's your personality has many layers to it. I feel as though that we probably won't uncover some of the layers in this lifetime of ours, maybe in another one, but we have so many layers to ourselves. And so, but I felt like that because people knew or may have felt like that, she's doesn't seem like she's sure about herself. How can she really lead me or make me confident and certain in the things that, she would like for me to do. And so I would say that I one of my remedies in overcoming that definitely will say was therapy. I needed to, seek out other people, seek out, help outside of myself, so that way I could see myself the way that, other people said that they see me. Um, I would definitely again would say it's just, the thought that my age having this young face, people not taking me seriously, which people sometimes still don't take me seriously. But how I overcome that, or feeling as though that people are not taking you seriously, I look at it, I decided to look at it in the perspective of a way that says that maybe they're not meant to be in my path. I feel as though that sometimes, we might want something so badly, whether, because a person might be in a position and they literally, could, change certain aspects of your life. But, because they might not necessarily, rock with you in a way, it doesn't necessarily mean that, it's the end all and be all. And so I had to really come to terms that it's okay that people are not gonna always say yes to you, or people might say that they're not taking you seriously, and because of how you may look. And I just had to really get out of myself and not internalize those things, and just reflect back onto the things that I have again accomplished, and the things and the people that have said yes to me, and believing that, again, there's definitely going to be other opportunities, because it always has been.
Okay. So a little trouble there. I'm getting myself off of mute. When you mentioned about different opportunities and some people saying no and things of that nature, and I'm thinking a lot of times we're so fearful of rejection, if you will, that we won't even ask.
No.
Or we could get 5 yeses, but that one no, we'll obsess over it. You know what I mean? And it's just like, wait a minute, but you got these 5 yeses. But it's that one no that we, but I think that one of the huge pieces to that puzzle is one of the things that you do is the cognitive behavioral therapy. Like really training your brain to basically to have different thoughts.
Yes.
You know what I mean? To actually be because if you keep focusing on the negative, then you're gonna more than likely you're gonna have a negative experience. You know what I mean? If you focus on the positive, then more than likely you're gonna have a positive experience. And in business, we're gonna get told no a lot. We're going to have people that are gonna let us down. Maybe we put trust in someone that we shouldn't have. And all of that's just part of the process. But more importantly, to be able to experience it and actually learn from it. You know what I mean? You can't prevent it from happening. Because I think you said earlier about taking risks. You have to take risks. You're not gonna. You sometimes you have to go through it. You know what I mean? And you just have to learn from it.
Yes.
So.
And I felt like too, like the thing about that is, you mentioned that we'll be fixated on the fact that we received a one no, and all of these yeses that we completely forget about. And I think it has to do with validation. I think that whatever that one yes, we felt like that was the person that could validate, our traits, or maybe our abilities, or be able to validate our purpose. And again, a way to break through those validation, the break through the habit of feeling as though that you have to seek outside influences to validate you, is again, look at what you've done. Look at the things that you have accomplished. That is your validation. Looking at, what you are capable of. And that honestly, is a really strong trait for any leader to have, to not only just, it's great to have validation from outside of people, but when you validate yourself, when you believe in yourself, when you acknowledge that you are capable, you are affirming yourself in a way to make others believe that you could do the things that you do, and they actually follow you. It's an amazing trait to have.
Yes, it is. Absolutely. Wow. This has been so powerful. You have really given some good, and I appreciate your transparency, your
Thank
openness.
you. Yes,
Right?
yes. I mean, I
Mhm.
told you, Jack, I got to keep it hot. Got to keep it honest, open, and transparent. I don't know any other way.
Right. Yep. Yep. And it's like, I guess for me, I'm sorry, it's throwing me off. My son is really performing in the background. It's kind of throwing me off a little bit. But I guess for me, I think everybody, like, even doing my symposiums or doing my interviews, I could have in the past, I could have had so many good experiences. The young, she gets on there and we talk and we just flow. Because a lot of times it's like, like I've known this person. You know what I mean? And
Yes.
the conversation just flows, and you don't necessarily need a script, and you're respectful of one another. You're just kind of piggybacking off, and it's a good experience, and that happens usually. And then there's some people just kind of in the middle. You know what I mean? No extreme either way. And then there's some people that I'm just like, okay, how much more time do we got on this interview? I just want to get off of here. You know what I mean? That their energy is so bad, and they're so combative, or that just kind of a lot of negative energy. But the thing of it is, I found myself initially focusing on that. You know what I mean? Like this person, has such bad energy, and why did I have to experience that, and all of that. And the thing of it is, what I really had to do was I had to shift into a couple of things. One, really be realistic about it. Yeah, if I interview 50 people or 100 people, because really, if I think about how many people I've interviewed since, beginning of 2017, and if I get like a handful of people, and I'm like, I'll never, ever, ever want them to come on my show again. You know what I mean? That's pretty good, actually. If you really, you know what I mean? So
it really is.
Like, get myself.
Oh, you said a handful out of like many?
Out of all these folks.
I
mean, you had to say to myself, Jackie, come on now. And then in the second piece is that some people are just not, it is what it is. Y'all just not meant to connect or flow or whatever. And that's okay. You know what I mean? It doesn't mean that I have to walk away feeling less than, or that I did something wrong, or you know what I mean?
It doesn't define, your expertise or the level of the platform or anything of that nature. Yeah.
Yep. But I had to learn that, because being in business is a very humbling experience, right?
It is. It is
very humbling. So it's a process. So that's only, one of the takeaways that I want you ladies to take away is that it's a process, so don't be too hard on yourselves. You have to, you got to be open, always ready to learn, to be flexible, and to operate within as your authentic self.
Exactly.
You know what I mean? That's one thing I can say. I'm always myself. Like you said, I don't know no other way to be. And some people like that, and some people don't. And those that don't, it's okay.
People gravitate towards it, and that's okay. You're right. It's okay. People gravitate towards the authenticity. People know when you're not being genuine. When you're putting on in a sense, because I feel like even when those representatives, they have inconsistencies with them, and so when you're actually more comfortable in just delivering yourself as is, then the flow of your journey just feels a lot more safer. It feels a lot more comfortable. And what I mean by safer is because you don't necessarily have to take on these unnecessary risks in a way that doesn't even line up with what you have going on. You got to remember certain things that, that doesn't even make sense. So it's just a lot more easier. And I feel as though that, people really do appreciate that. They appreciate your rawness. They appreciate, the transparency of all. That's one of the things that I tell my clients is that, I don't really just consider myself a therapist. I really consider myself a healing accountability partner, because just because you're on one side of the screen or the couch doesn't mean I can't learn from you, and vice versa. This is a partnership here. I'm human just like you. I bleed the same blood just like you, and I'll fall short just like anyone else. And when they hear that, when people hear that rawness and hear, how genuine that is, it's infectious, it's contagious. You want more of it. And so that's why I just feel as though that even in leadership, that's just, you have to have that. People cannot, they cannot, follow or serve someone who's just a fraud.
Right.
And when they do, it feels as though you've been bamboozled. It's just I feel like I've been bamboozled. How like you have bought something, you buy something from the store, they say it's going to be all these things, and then when you get it, it's not operating in nothing that it says. So it's just in leadership,
right.
You have to come,
well, you know what?
as yourself.
Right, come as your authentic self.
Yes.
So, but we have to go ahead and wrap it up. This has been such a good, easy flowing, informative conversation. And I really, really appreciate you taking a seat at the table and just coming and sharing your expertise.
Thank you
and just basically, taking us down, sharing your journey with us.
Thank you. Thank you so much. I appreciate the seat at the table, Jackie. I hope to come back to the table.
Yeah, you come back to the table. So I'm looking at the time, and we was flowing so much that we only have a few more minutes, but I want you definitely to give them the name of your business again, maybe your website, your social media handles.
Yes. Again, my name is Tavara Franklin, licensed professional counselor and owner of Healing Grounds Therapy and Wellness Center, where we are cultivating hope and healing back into your life and leading yourself into your authentic self. You can be able to find me on Facebook. That is Healing Grounds with the S, Therapy and Wellness Center. And you can find me on Instagram at Healing Grounds with the S _therapy. And you can also check out my website. That's www.healinggroundstherapy.com, where you'll be able to see tons of initiatives that I have going on currently. I'm involved in what's called Mocha Mental Magic Self-Care Conference that's being held June 24th through the 26th. And it's definitely a conference that's all things self-care. So, and being able to educate all people of brown, of color, and faith of the magic of mental health and the power of healing and self-care. So please check me out at mochamentalmagic.com to schedule to get your tickets for the conference and to be able to see me on all the panel discussions.
Yes. Please definitely follow her. Check her out. If you want a consultation, she's good people. So definitely reach out. So we're going to close it out. Again, I'm your host, Jacqueline Kaba-Harrison. Thank you for joining us for another awesome, phenomenal, exclusive interview. If you have not checked out the other exclusive interviews, please do so. Okay. This is a free platform, and a lot of good information is being given out. If you are in business, as well as on a personal level too, but primarily towards women entrepreneurs, to basically be able to further develop or further refine your leadership skills. So make sure you follow me at Realizing, or on Facebook at Realizing Your Potential, the numbers 123, or you can subscribe to my YouTube channel. And you can also find me on LinkedIn. You can follow me on LinkedIn. I'm at Jacqueline Kaba-Harrison. And that way, turn your alerts on and you will know every time that I go live and all of the different updates that I have for you. All right, so take care, everyone, and I'll see you again soon.